Why did US markets talk about recession and subprime crises in October last month? Is there something to be worried about then? Let's get to that now. The sequence of events from the fallout of First Brands and Tricolor, followed by comments around risks in the non bank lending space, raised alarm bells for markets. Market concerns were heard bunching up around subprime loans, with particular reference to auto loans. Markets started seeing this as the new trigger for a recession, and like mortgage debt was in 2008. Like always, placing narratives in perspective is extremely important, and using data for this becomes very essential. US data on auto subprime show no untoward risks at this point in time. US domestic non-financial debt stood at 78 trillion as of June 2025, and auto debt stood at 2.1% of this entire debt pile. This is much smaller than the share of mortgage debt that stands at 16%. Remember, this was 27% in 2008. Further, subprime auto loan originations are well contained, and the delinquencies in the automotive space are seen marginally below pre COVID levels. Therefore, no alarm signals here, unlike heard in the narratives. One must acknowledge at this point in time that as the US Federal Reserve's easing cycle continues, these curves would only soften ahead. What is the exact market fear then? The market's fear revolves around credit cycle deterioration through these delinquencies spreading from smaller to bigger items. Like what? Spreading from credit cards to auto loans to utilities and finally to mortgages. While some market participants may have these concerns, markets on the whole, however, recognize and remember clearly the Fed's strength. How? Markets remember March of 2023, when there was a domino like collapse of US regional banks back to back, like we saw in the first chart. The Federal Reserve stepped in and announced a slew of measures that saw its balance sheet increase sharply by 394 billion within a fortnight. And this was seen to immediately plug most concerns, and the nervousness eased. The Fed's balance sheet then normalized back again to earlier levels in just under a quarter.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.